Welcome back to Springer Homestead for another Mailbag Monday. So this week we're going to cover a little bit on rabbits, on solar, and a little bit on Hipcamp. Are you ready?
Bring it on.
Bring it on. All right, so Janelle had a question on RHD. And the question is RHD zoonotic, and can you eat the meat if your rabbits actually get RHD?
Okay, so no, it is not zoonotic. So, and I never know if I say that right. Basically what that is whether or not it can cross into other species. No, RHD is just in rabbits. So people can't get it. So you could, in theory, eat the meat. However, the USDA has said absolutely any rabbits that are suspected to be infected or confirmed to be infected, which again I mentioned in the other video, you can't get a confirmation until they're dead, is to be destroyed. So that is by fire. So if you think the rabbit has it, they recommend putting it down, which usually they die before you get a chance. But the carcasses need to be burned or buried. And I can't remember, I believe the depth is to at least 3 feet. I mean, it's pretty deep even. And that's because they don't want it spreading any more than it already is.
All right, so the next question is from Nick, and it's, do rabbits need to overwinter for good fur quality?
So, if I remember right, he was asking because in other species, like trappers and stuff, trap in the winter because that's where you've got, like fox will put out the nicest fur, martens, all the rest of it. Summer fur tends to be a little thinner. Rabbits don't do that in quite the same way. What you're really looking for is a by age thing there. And rabbits hit their first prime coat usually around 9 months of age. It can be a little bit later than that in some of the bigger breeds, but you're looking for that prime coat, good fur density. Even a winter coat versus a summer coat, there isn't a whole lot of difference in the fur density in domestic rabbits. You just really want it in a good prime, full condition more than anything.
Okay. And Kathy asked how many rabbits should you start out with if you're going to start with meat rabbits?
Well, this kind of depends a little bit on how many rabbits you're looking to produce. So if you haven't gone through and looked at meat rabbit math and figured out how many rabbits you actually need, I would start there. If you kind of know how many you want to do, like in a family of 4, usually they say, and I did this in another video and now I'm going to forget, I think in a family of 4, isn't it 2 does per 2 people?
I don't remember.
I don't remember now off the top of my head, but yeah, in a family of 4, you need something like, I think, 4 does, and anytime you've got more than 2 does, I would recommend one buck per 2 does plus an extra buck usually. So if you get 4, I would probably have 2 bucks just to make sure that you've got some genetic diversity there. But it really comes down to how many rabbits do you want to produce in a year more than anything. I mean, we can give you numbers all day for a family of 4, a family of 6, a family of 8. But if you're going to do other stuff, or if you're just going to eat rabbit, it's going to change your number. So you need to figure out how many offspring you're looking to do first, and kind of go from there. But always try and do your does in pairs, because you want to breed them at the same time. That way, if something goes awry, you've potentially got a foster doe. So I try not to get into even number or to odd numbers, but always try and keep it even.
Okay. So what happens if your rabbit is really not eating, drinking, moving, and it has blue lips? This is one that showed up, I think, this morning or overnight.
This morning. Yeah. I answered, and then by the time they answered back, the rabbit had died. So I'm all about trying to help you. If you're having trouble, by all means, send me a message. But there are times where you probably need to get veterinary assistance, and this was one of them. So not eating, not drinking, and not moving is serious enough in its own right. But when you start to see things like blue lips, blood, discharge, any of that kind of stuff, that needs vet intervention. Because it's really hard for me to diagnose over the internet without seeing a rabbit. I don't know what's wrong with it. I can match up all the symptoms in the world to what's commonly the trouble. But when you get into things like blue lips, you're usually talking about two things. That's poor oxygen
poor oxygen intake. How about that?
Yeah, poor oxygenation. That's the word I was looking for. Golly. But anyway, poor oxygen and or poor circulation. So either one of those are not something I can tell you how to fix. And you don't really want to treat for one thing if it turns out to be the other. So there are times that you need a vet. Generally, though, if they're not eating or drinking, you can take your pellets, make a mash, and take your pellets into warm water, make a mash, and syringe feed them. The big thing with rabbits is you don't want them to go 24 to 48 hours without eating. The only time that that's okay is a lot of times when you've got does that are right before delivery, they'll go off feed for a couple days. But other than that, you need to keep their gut moving. Once the gut goes into stasis, then you've got a recipe for disaster on your hands.
Okay. So let's move into Hipcamp. A viewer named Dean asked what our experience has been with Hipcamp and do we recommend signing up?
So we've been doing Hipcamp for a month and a half. Because I think we signed up at the end of June, got our first camper at like the 1st of July. I love it. This yellow jacket's going to drive me insane. The Hipcamp handles everything, right? You just go in, you make your listing, you do whatever, you assign your pricing, you assign your sites, you put your maps in, your pictures, and then Hipcamp does the rest. So they do the advertising on it, they handle the reservations, and every Tuesday after you've had campers, you get paid. And they can do it by bank direct deposit or into PayPal. We do it by PayPal because we get paid instantly. I think it's 2 to 3 business days or whatever if you go into a bank account. And then I have the power to go in and turn my sites on and off. So if we have, if we're going to be out of town, if we've got family coming in that want to use a site, whatever it is, we can just go in and toggle it off for certain dates. We can turn it off for the winter, which is what we'll probably end up doing once we get some snow. We can turn on and off fire bans with one click, so I don't have to go in and change all of my listing. I can just click a little button that says fire ban in effect, and it notifies, not only does it change my listing, it notifies anybody who's got reservations that a fire ban is now in effect. And so far I haven't had any complaints with it. The campers have been really respectful. They seem to have a really good understanding that this is somebody's private property, and we haven't had a single incident with anybody being obnoxious or making a mess or anything else. And remember too that you set your fees at whatever you want. So we're at $22 a night, which is higher than your state parks, and I think that weeds out some people. And we cap the number of people you can have. So you can have like 6 people in a site. After that, you have to pay extra for the extra people, just for the wear and tear on the sites and the land and the porta potty and all the rest of it. So, love it. I highly recommend it. If you've got land, there are different rules for different size properties. So I think if you're under 20 acres, you have to provide a restroom facility, and there's a whole bunch of different rules to it, but they provide you insurance just like Airbnb does. So if my campers get back there and do something crazy and get hurt, I've got insurance. If they knock over a lantern and burn my neighborhood down, I'm covered up to $1 million, I think it is. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a great deal. We've been really happy, and the customer service has been really great the couple of times that we've needed them for stuff. They have absolutely been wonderful. So, yeah, I highly recommend them.
Okay. And I think the last question we had was, what do we have in mind for merchandise? We had mentioned it previously that we were going to look at some t-shirts and stuff.
Well, Kate is really excited about fanny packs, so I don't know what I'm putting on them yet, but I'm making fanny packs. We do have a t-shirt out, and I played with a mug design that's got our little old dog on it. But we do have one t-shirt out, and we do have one mug that's been created, and I'm working on a whole bunch of ideas. But one, it's still our busy season, and internet connection is always an issue, so it's going to be slow coming, but I have some ideas. Hope to have some more up in the next week or two.
Okay. So that was all the questions we had. Now, I want to do a separate video on this, but we've had a video, a 2-year-old video, for whatever reason, sat there for 2 years and didn't have 1,000 views on it. And in the last 5 days, it's picked up over 30,000 views. Now, while that's awesome, it's very interesting why this video, I have no idea, took off.
Yeah.
But it's also brought in a lot of new viewers and a lot of critics. So, on solar, rather than have this little section here, I will say this. I'm going to start putting together some things because we're now having to look at replacing batteries. We've had some suggestions from viewers that have showed up because of this video on good suggestions and other things. And I will say this. If you're a regular viewer and you've always had interest in solar, we met some people this weekend that want to go completely off grid, and they picked our brains for, at least my brains mostly, for 10 minutes or something,
Yeah,
asking
that's
a
not
lot
my
of
part of
questions.
things.
I know. But if you have questions on solar that I can work into a video, or if I do a Mailbag Monday of just solar stuff, I'll do that versus, you know, the normal things. I'll leave it up to you guys to answer or ask those questions that I can answer. And I'll tell you, I'm not an expert on solar. I can tell you all about our setup, why we have it designed the way it is, what the costs were, what it took to put in, etc. But on the solar technology and what's current today, I really have not kept up on it. I've done it lately because so many people have shown up with pitchforks and torches, and then other people have actually wanted to know kind of some background. So if you have questions on that, on what I would recommend or what we would recommend based off of usage and everything else, I'll gladly do research there and put out some more videos. But I'm going to be doing some more in the series on solar, looking at, you know, 7 years technology that we have today. What would I do differently, and then what will we change to? Like, if we need to replace batteries, will I stay the same or will I go with something new? So with that, guys, thanks for continuing on. We have surpassed the 10,000 subscriber mark. We're almost at 10,000, I think 150 as of this morning.
Yeah.
And then beyond that, so it's continued on. It's been great so far, and we're continuing on and going forth. So if you have questions on any of our videos, feel free to leave them down in the comments, or you can always do it on this video, and we will reference back as we need to previous videos if you've watched in that.
We've also hit 1 million views, so we've kind of had an interesting couple of weeks, which is kind of fun because a lot of other stuff, like Kaden's going to do an update, but we've had a lot of trouble in other places here lately, so it's been kind of fun. Whether you've been with us from the beginning or if you're new to the channel, because we've picked up a whole bunch of new folks here lately, thank you from the bottom of our heart for sticking in there. We talked about quitting this, 2 years ago, year and a half ago, and y'all convinced us to stick around, and who'd have thought that we would have gotten this big? And I know we're still a far cry from a lot of other channels, but we're way bigger than we ever planned to be, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So thanks for sticking around, thanks for watching, thanks for the recommendations, the comments, even some of the uglier comments. Thanks for interacting with us and being a part of our YouTube family.
So with that, we'll see you next time from Sprague Homestead.
Happy homesteading!